Hi, I'm Michael K. Sahota. I'm going to share with you my Agile 23 insights about what I learned and what we can all take away and apply to be more successful improving our organizations and solving problems. So the first thing that I want to talk about is a session that was part of the Audacious Salon that was talking about delivering value. And of course, this is an important topic because people are starting to question, well, why are we doing this Agile thing? And what are these Agile coaches and Scrum Masters really doing in terms of adding value? And this has been a topic where I've had a strong sense for a long time that all of us need to show value. Now, the key here is to understand that in a traditional organizational system with typically a traditional leader, we need to use the language of that environment. So it's usually going to be about outcomes and specifically how does this impact delivery. Now, when we do that, when we focus on what they care about, outcomes, then that'll build trust and influence for them to listen to us about what we want. This is something we've been teaching for, many years now as one of the key patterns that we can use to be more successful with any leader. It's just really listen to them about what they want. Now, for us to do this as Agile coaches or Scrum Masters or transformation leads, what does that actually require? Well, we need the inner shift to learn how to lead through influence. Now, it seems kind of funny. It's really talking about like an Agile way of leading to introduce Agile, but we are so deeply conditioned into command and control habit, having our own agenda, pushing for change and so on, that we don't realize that when we're fighting with leaders and trying to force them to use our language, we're not actually fully respecting them. So that's a huge shift. And that's, of course, been the focus of our Evolutionary Leadership program, which is how do I change myself so I can show up differently? And one of the things that was coming up in the conference, another thing, was this Agile Coaching Wheel. Apparently, the Agile Coaching Wheel is taking off. A lot of people are talking about it. A lot of people are very excited about it. But understanding what do we need to do? How do we need to be to create extraordinary change? How do we need to function in order to solve organizational challenges and really help organizations? Now, the interesting part of that is the center of the wheel. The center of the wheel, it often gets forgotten, is self-mastery, because people are going, like, what self-mastery? Like, what does that really mean? It means that and this is why we talk about evolutionary leadership, it's that how we are showing up determines how people around us respond. And how we show up is often a function of these unconscious patterns we have that are actually creating outcomes that we're not really in favor of. So we're actually, in a way, sabotaging our own success. And so how do we start to become aware of that? So when we choose, and I think that's really the core of self-mastery, is making that choice to say, hey, I'm going to focus on my own growth and my own evolution, because I understand that how I show up changes how everyone responds around me. So if I want to get different responses from the people around me, I need to be showing up differently. If I'm encountering resistance or challenge, wait a second, I'm involved in that and I can do something different to create a different outcome. That's why we say really self-mastery for us, or evolutionary leadership, is about moving from this role of being a victim of I'm helpless because all these problems are out there and those people are doing those things, to a place of self-mastery and being in control of our life and what we're creating by becoming the hero of our life, where we're realizing that all the things going out there are actually in some ways a reflection of what's going on in here. And we slow down to understand that there's a deeper story. And so part of our work is just going a lot deeper on, and this has been my practice over the summer, is looking much deeper at my layers of self-deception, of where I'm not being honest with myself, where I'm falling out of inner integrity. So anyway, that's the tie in there. Anyway, tying into this was this extraordinary, and I'm going to put the link in the video notes, by Bushra Amiwala. And it was incredible. Now, it was incredible because she was describing how, as a Gen Z female, Muslim, she was able to become the youngest elected official in the United States. And it tells of her story of overcoming discrimination and adversity to just keep on going and show up differently. And the key message that I pulled out, she wasn't aware of this, but I shared it at the end of the talk and she confirmed that this is true. The key for her pattern of overcoming discrimination, overcoming the racism, the sexism, is for her to let go of her judgment first. I'm going to repeat this. For her to let go of her judgment against the people who were judging her, who were having their, treating her in certain ways that were not very kind, and becoming curious of, oh, why would someone operate this way? And what she modeled is this shift that's required for us to create extraordinary change. For us to create extraordinary change and impact, it's a shifting away from our being in judgment of others to being just curious and open and discovering, well, what is it about this person? And really, for us to make that shift, it means letting go of our hurts, our baggage. So it was this beautiful demonstration of a living human being who was modeling and showing how we can create change. And if we're not creating that kind of change, to help us understand, oh, wait a second, where am I in judgment of others? So think about it. Where are you in judgment of people on teams or other departments or leaders in the hierarchy for showing up and doing and making the decisions they have, right? When we have those judgments inside of us, that ties in with this Agile Coaching Wheel and self-mastery. We're not at self-mastery. We're actually choosing that moment to become a victim. That's why the most important form of leadership is evolutionary leadership, which is really leading ourselves. So that's definitely a must watch. So really, if you want to end all diversity inclusiveness issues, you want to really create a better work environment, better world, it's for you and me to let go of our judgments of others first. And that's the kind of the edge to work again to change the world. All right. Now let's bring back to the Agile community. I participated in this debate. I had a lot of fun. I was actually one of the debaters, and it was about scaling frameworks are a necessary evil. And I was on the pro side, so I was debating this, and it was actually really easy for me because I actually truly believe it. And my view is that, and I've said this for over a decade, is that Agile is pointing to a different culture system, which doesn't fit in most organizations. So, really these scaling frameworks, especially SAFe, are designed to fit in traditional organizations. People who know Dean Leffingwell says he was trying to make RUP work and it didn't work, so he kind of rebranded under the Agile label. So that's why it's, kind of heavy and very structured and so on. Now, what I realized is that, it gives traditional leaders and traditional organizations a way to start where they are ready to start. And for that, it's a good thing. It may not be the culture shift that you or I may hope they have, but it at least gets them started on the journey. The other thing is I know there are many SAFe practitioners who can implement SAFe in a progressive way, where they understand that it's just a framework and that they can use a people-centric approach to introducing it that's inclusive and so on. So if we think about SAFe more as a tool, then it's actually not such a bad thing. Like me personally, don't use it. I focus more on helping people recover from SAFe or other transformation programs when they realize their transformation doesn't work and they want to go on to the, keep the value they invested in and move on to solve the real problems. But what I wanted to do is point out that there's a contradiction in the Agile community. Because the Agile community, people say, oh, we're very inclusive and so on, but it's not inclusive towards people who do SAFe and scaling frameworks, weirdly. So maybe that's the way for us within our community is to see where we have judgment about people doing things differently, SAFe or otherwise, and let go of that judgment and just realize that we're working in a diverse world and diverse approaches are actually very valuable because there's going to be a fit somewhere. So something to think about. The last thing I want to talk about is, and I always listen for this, what are the cool kids doing? What do I mean by the cool kids? The cool kids are those people who are trying out the new things, pushing the needle on what's possible. And so I'm going to put the link in here as well. There's something called Fast Agile. I was like, Fast Agile? What's that? I'm always really curious because it's got a good name, Fast Agile. So essentially, it's kind of like, essentially if you have, let's say 100 people, they're all building one product and they need to somehow form into teams to deliver features. Well, what you do is you bring them together in kind of an open space-like environment. You have a product kickoff, but now people self-form their teams. So it's dynamic team formation. And you do this on a regular basis. So people break off into teams to solve certain problems. And when you do that, and so basically it's a structure kind of like open space meets dynamic reteaming, meets project liftoff, meets regular cadence. So that's what people are experimenting with, trying out, and having success. Now, what I will point out is that this will only work in a progressive culture. If you're a more traditional culture, open space and more progressive structures probably won't work because leaders don't feel like they have the sense of control, and they haven't learned how to feel comfortable and understand that those approaches are actually going to help them get them what they want. So anyway, so that's the last thing that I want to share with you. There's more. Oh yeah, that's what that means. Okay. One more thing. One thing that I noticed this year, which is quite different. I was there last year, but I don't remember noticing this, was that the vendor space at the conference was very small. So if you're interested in sponsoring the conference, this is a great opportunity because the number of vendors has gotten quite a bit smaller. But what I'm wondering now, if this is some sort of indication of a tipping point, whether Agile's actually kind of crossed this chasm where it's starting this path of decline at an Agile industry level. So that's what I'm curious about. That's the kind of my sort of general spidey sense of the whole world, is that the Agile industry is starting to collapse. And interestingly enough, I had a conversation with Damon Poole, and he's saying, well, look, you know what? People don't really want to talk about Agile, so we need to figure out the next thing, right? And so I think the sentiment is floating out there. So just something to be watching out for if you are in the Agile industry. And from our perspective, it's like, well, Agile is just a tool. It's the right tool for the job. Otherwise, use Lean, use whatever approach, use design thinking. But that's not really what's going to create the value. It's the leadership mindset. It's the culture that we create to create energized people. And when we have energized people working together, the framework or the approach, that's kind of secondary. So anyway, that's the update. Smaller space of vendors. I was actually surprised by how small it was this time around at the conference. All right, thanks so much for listening, everyone. If you want to have a conversation or chat about any of this, please reach out to me and we'll set up a call. All right, take care, everyone. Bye-bye.